So here's the caption you put up. $175 billion goes a long way. This is the capital of Ukraine. You're giving me all this great context. Where's the context in that tweet?
Yeah, if you go look at all the other tweets I put out, there's a lot of context as well.
Oh, so that's backtracking because you had a massive amount of backlash from Ukrainians, rightfully. But why didn't you put that in the original tweet?
Because that wasn't the idea of the original tweet.
Do you understand why people in this country are pretty pissed off with you?
One post does not define everything I did while I was in Ukraine.
Well, I think what you were doing is to try and show that there maybe isn't a war in Ukraine. You were basically trying to ride this sort of Tim Pool grifter type wave saying, pulling silly faces, smirking at the people of this country saying, this is where your tax dollars are going. You cannot avoid that. That is literally what you did. Everybody agrees. Everybody in the comments agrees. That's what you were doing. Why can't you admit that?
Because I do not believe by making satire on the internet commits a crime by any means. And
okay, so
going back.
This is a huge revelation. So you were actually doing satire
in that post.
So it was satire.
Is there anything wrong with satire?
I know exactly what you were trying to do. You failed in doing it because you've received more backlash and more hate than support, and I guess now you're backpedaling.
I wouldn't say that.
What would you say then? Where did you go in East Ukraine?
I went to, isn't Bucha East Ukraine? Or I went somewhere where there was Bucha.
So Bucha is a 20-minute drive north of Kyiv. Where did you go in East Ukraine?
That's where I went. I went to Bucha. Is that not east of Ukraine?
Oh, God. It makes me despair that you've come here, you don't even know the difference between East Ukraine and somewhere that's a 20-minute drive north of Kyiv, and you've put out content that's genuinely extremely damaging. Nick Shirley came here to Ukraine and produced one of the most egregious pieces of propaganda I've seen since the start of this war. His video undermining the war and showing that apparent taxpayers' money is being wasted on luxury cars here has amassed millions of views, hundreds of thousands of comments, and it's been shared by some of the Kremlin's biggest mouthpieces. So I have an exclusive interview with Nick to find out exactly why he did this. Well, let me know when you're good.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I spoke to your fixers and they said that they took you to Bucha, where there are mass graves. They said that they took you to a hospital that was bombed. Having seen all of that, why is it that you decided for your first report to be about the luxury of Kyiv and Americans' tax dollars being wasted?
Yeah, it's a good question. Quite frankly, I'm still putting together the documentary I had. That was a clip I filmed just walking around while I was in Kyiv. And I do believe that here in the United States, there's a lot of misconceptions as far as where tax dollars are being sent. And we have the right to understand where things are going. And that by posting a video like that doesn't make me a pro-Russian by any means. By every mean, I'm very pro-Ukrainian.
Well, you're saying there's a lot of misconceptions about where the American tax dollars are going. Do you think you're adding to those misconceptions by showing a few luxury cars in the capital of this country and then pulling silly faces? Do you think you're actually adding to that?
I do not, actually. I think a lot of the times and a lot of the things that we do see in the United States, I think there are a lot of misconceptions that we see from the United States. And by putting a video out like that is just showing people that as a war is still going on, people are still living a somewhat normal life there in Ukraine, and people have the right to see what's actually happening in Ukraine and Kyiv.
So why didn't you put that in the caption? Why did you just upload it with a caption saying this is where your tax dollars are going? Why didn't you add the context you're giving me now?
As far as what context?
Well, now you're basically telling me you uploaded that video because you wanted to show the world that life carries on as normal in Ukraine. But you didn't say that in the caption or the description of the video on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter that you uploaded. So why are you only giving me this context, and why didn't you include that in the tweets?
I have included that in the tweets as well. But in that first video I put, as you know how the internet works, a one-liner often goes a lot farther than paragraphs.
Yeah, but you made that a one-liner.
Yeah, I know.
So you're saying I know how the internet works, but you're actually contributing to that.
As far as what?
So here's the caption you put up. $175 billion goes a long way. This is the capital of Ukraine. You're giving me all this great context. Where's the context in that tweet?
Yeah, if you go look at all the other tweets I put out, there's a lot of context as well.
Oh, so that's backtracking because you had a massive amount of backlash from Ukrainians, rightfully. But why didn't you put that in the original tweet?
Because that wasn't the idea of the original tweet.
What was the idea of the original tweet?
To show that what is happening in Ukraine and to show that people are still living a somewhat normal life in certain areas of, such as Kyiv.
Well, I think what you were doing is to try and show that there maybe isn't a war in Ukraine. You were basically trying to ride this sort of Tim Pool grifter type wave saying, pulling silly faces, smirking at the people of this country saying, this is where your tax dollars are going. You cannot avoid that. That is literally what you did. Everybody agrees. Everybody in the comments agrees. That's what you were doing. Why can't you admit that?
Because I do not believe by making satire on the internet commits a crime by any means.
Okay, so
going back.
This is a huge revelation. So you were actually doing satire.
In that post.
So it was satire.
Is there anything wrong with satire?
Okay, so you're telling me now that this was a joke and it's satire and this wasn't your actual reporting. This wasn't you being a journalist.
What do you mean?
Well, you were being satirical, right? You were joking. You're saying that this tweet was satire. The original report that you put out on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter was satire.
That was the first video I put out, and if you continue to follow me and watch the videos that will be coming out, you will very much see.
No, I've seen the backtracking, but why didn't you make it clear that it was satire?
Isn't that very obvious that it's clear that it's satire?
No, because it's been retweeted and amplified by pro-Russian accounts that are very serious accounts, and actually it's.
I don't even know who those accounts are.
Okay, well, I can send you that information. A second point. So 2 days ago, Romy Bank commented on your Instagram video saying, "Go East Ukraine. That's the real Ukraine. It's beautiful and wild, but being bombed." And you replied saying, "I visited East Ukraine as well. I will show you in the coming days." Where did you go in East Ukraine?
I went to. Isn't Bucha East Ukraine? Or I went somewhere where there was Bucha.
So Bucha is a 20-minute drive north of Kyiv. Where did you go in East Ukraine?
That's where I went. I went to Bucha. Is that not east of Ukraine?
Oh, God. It makes me despair that you've come here, you don't even know the difference between East Ukraine and somewhere that's a 20-minute drive north of Kyiv. And you put out content that's genuinely extremely damaging. If you look at the comments on your TikTok, if you look at the comments on your Instagram, there are an incredible number of young people saying, "Oh, it looks like our money's being wasted. Oh, it looks like there's no war in Ukraine. Oh, it looks like Donald Trump was right." How do you feel when you read those comments? You have actually added to that discourse.
Well, I think we as Americans, we have the right to understand, and I think it might be a misconception on the American side as well, because if you lived in America, you'd see the news that we receive, and there's a lot of distrust going on with the Americans in the political
But you're
sphere.
saying, but you also said 5 minutes ago that the post you posted was satire. So were you trying to wake up Americans to the truth, or were you just doing satire? Which is it?
A bit of both.
Okay, so it's satire, but it's also the harsh reality of the war. I mean, those two things don't cross over very well.
That wasn't to show the harsh reality of the war. It was to show that there's still a normal life that is able to be had in Ukraine.
Why didn't you say that?
I have said that. One post does not define everything I did while I was in Ukraine.
I think one post that gets millions of views across all platforms pretty much defines your trip here. Do you understand why people in this country are pretty pissed off with you?
I do understand, and I feel bad if that is the case, and I hope to fix my. I don't think it was necessary for me to go to the front lines, and the time that I was there, we did try to make it happen, and the two people that we did reach out to, we weren't able to coordinate with them to get me to go there.
Yeah, but you told Corey, my friend, that that you didn't want to go to those places, and that you said that, and then publicly you said you couldn't get accreditation to go to the front lines. That's why you didn't go. Why weren't you just honest and say that you were too scared to go to those places?
That's not the truth, because I did talk with people about potentially going there, and when I got there the first day in Ukraine, I was then informed that if I were to even want to go there, I would have needed to get a press release. I would have had to get press credentials. So
No,
that was
that's
my
not true at
understanding.
all. No, no, no. Corey told you that you could easily go to Kharkiv. I could go to Kharkiv tomorrow if I wanted to go. I've been there a million times. Why didn't you get on the train and go to Kharkiv? What were you worried about if there's no war going on?
It wasn't necessary for me to go to Kharkiv. There was a lot of stuff to document in my 3 days while I was just in Ukraine.
Okay, well, it seems like all you documented since you came to this country is the nice area of Kyiv, the nice cars in Kyiv, and you've undermined the war. If you're genuinely sorry, you've just apologized for what you've done. You've also just said that it was satire and not real reporting.
That video was satire.
Yeah, okay, so why don't you delete that video? Because it's being misconstrued and it's being used by Russian propagandists. Why don't you delete it now? It's influencing hundreds of thousands of people all the time, putting people's lives in danger in this country.
If I were to delete it, it would... there's no point in deleting that video. The damage, if there has been damage, is already done.
Okay, well, at least you're acknowledging that the damage has been done and that it's been an incredibly damaging video. I know exactly what you were trying to do. You failed in doing it because you've received more backlash and more hate than support, and I guess now you're backpedaling.
I wouldn't say that.
What would you say then?
Well, if you read people from Ukraine, you're obviously seeing the Ukrainian comments. If you read people from America, they are obviously upset as well with what's going on.
How do you think they have a right to be upset?
Yeah, we do actually.
How so?
Because there are millions of dollars, billions of dollars. People are here in the United States as well suffering. And when they see on the news that billions of dollars is getting spent in other countries where most people have never visited, people get upset. Imagine if you made X amount of money and you paid X amount of money in taxes, and then you see that billions of dollars being sent to another country, it would make you upset.
Yeah, imagine if your brother had his hands tied behind his back in Bucha and was shot at the back of the head, and then some 25-year-old kid turns up a year later and says that none of it happened. How would you feel about that?
I didn't say that by any means, and you'll see that. So by you making...
Yeah, well, you insinuated that the crimes that have happened in this country are, a waste of American taxpayers' dollars to support, and that basically everything's fine in Kyiv. Like, look, you posted a video of people partying in the streets of Kyiv of nice cars, right? You're undermining the war. You're making it seem like there's nothing wrong happening in Ukraine. You're making it seem like this country is fine, right? That's what you were doing.
That's not true. And if you follow me, and you'll see the other videos I have posted from Ukraine so far. I believe I've only posted 3 videos from Ukraine so far. If you go watch the full video I made on YouTube of me asking people about what they think about U.S. politics, that was one of the videos I wanted to go film there, and that is what I saw. And if you go read the comments in there, it's very interesting to read those comments as well from people both from America.
It's so nice to hear all this context that you're giving me right now.
Well,
it's amazing. But why wasn't any of it in your original reporting? Where is your film? Where is your film? Where is your original film? The first film that everyone has seen from you in this country is a film undermining the war. Where is the film? Where is it?
It's coming out. You'll see it on Sunday.
Okay.
And for you to also go in on your platforms and not even acknowledge the other videos I've made or the other statements that were out before you released your video, or also, it's very wrong of you to do as well.
I don't need to do that. I think it's very obvious who you are and what you're doing and what you've done to the reputation of Ukraine. And I don't think it needs any more context. Just like the fact you omitted context from your video that was apparently satire undermining the war. I don't think I needed the context to include your input in the report I made about you.
Is there anything wrong with satire?
If it is 2 weeks or 2 months before an election in the US that is live or die for this country, and you are making it seem like there isn't a war here, there is something deeply wrong with what you did.
I do not believe so. And if anything...
well, you're morally bankrupt. Do what you want.
I am not morally bankrupt. And if anything, I'm curious, who do you think would be best for the United States or for Ukraine to win the election?
I'm not being interviewed by you right now. You're being interviewed by me.
I just asked you a question.
Yeah, but this isn't your show, so this isn't something that I'm going to answer. And it doesn't really matter. None of this has actually got anything to do with what's happened. You have put out basically Russian propaganda, and I'm just trying to figure out whether you were paid by the Russians or whether you were just used by them.
I'm not, and for you to say that is very dangerous for my life and for the life of my family, so I would really appreciate if you would retract those claims, because they are 100% false. I'm 100% independent. I pay for everything on my own, and I have no ties with any Russian.
Sure. I think the people that are actually in danger right now, the people whose lives are in danger, are the people in this country from the Russians who are sharing your video. So good luck with that.
That is very true, that there are many people's lives at stake, and this war does need to end as soon as possible.
So it appears that Nick has basically said that it was satire, tried to backpedal, tried to apologize, but he refuses to take the video down. And I guess the views, the likes, and the monetization is just too alluring for him. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, even though it was probably quite a tough watch. I'm here full-time in Ukraine as a journalist. I make reports every day about what is going on in this country. If you liked it, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.